Everyone said Star Trek The Next Generation, the first season's really bad. Well, we just finished watching it for the first time. Was it bad?
The 24th century continues on Star Trek The Next Generation. All the drama, the wonder, and excitement of Gene Roddenberry's original Space Odyssey are here in a new age of high adventure. Follow the voyages of the new Starship Enterprise and the lives of her crew on Star Trek The Next Generation.
No, it was fine.
I'm going to make my concession up front, and then I'll jump into why I think everyone's wrong. My concession is a lot of these episodes are forgettable. Like, going back through them after we finish the season, I'm like, I don't really want to watch that again. You know, don't really see any reason to revisit this one. So, no, not every episode, like, hit it out of the park or anything like that, especially the stories of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that just the strength of the characters really got us hooked in the beginning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even through, like, the bad ones, per se. Like, just all the stuff and learning about each character was enough to hook me in to where, like, the actual plot of the episode is like, I don't care. But any little side conversation between whoever was just like, okay, let me take this in. Because I wanted to know everything about everybody. Because right off the bat, I think everyone was kind of interesting. And people talk about their show because it's great. So I'm like, okay, cool, let's dive in. And knowing us, when people tell us, like, oh, this is really bad, I'm already in the back of my mind, like, I think I'm gonna like this. You know what I mean? Like, even like, I'm not saying I like the episode, but even like the racist episode where I'm like, okay, it's not bad. And then we get to the patron takes, it's like, oh my God, I'm getting canceled.
Yeah, I think that we were joking about it the whole time because we had been told even before we started how bad it was. So knowing that we're already committed to watch the whole thing, anytime we've had our expectations lowered, we've seemed to have liked it much more.
Yeah, I wouldn't say over accepted, but like, how do you describe that? Where you're like, I don't know, we're gonna like it. Like, very few times where like I see that and actually like agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's always the opposite. Like, oh, everyone likes this movie. I'm not gonna like it. I don't know if it's just going against the grain or something.
Yeah, but it's not always the case, like, because there's obviously some things so far in our journey that everyone says it's really good, and yeah, we agree. Like, City on the Edge of Forever, yeah, it's really good. So it's not always the case. But yeah, our YouTube comments, so that it was people telling us that it was going to be bad, and then, this nice little bump that we've gotten since starting TNG on the channel, of course, we appreciate. But my God, I don't know how often you go into the comments, but it's like a minefield in there. I mean, it is like spoiler central every time I jump into the comments now.
Well, after the whole DC Fontana fiasco and the Wrath of Khan fiasco, I try to avoid YouTube comments.
We have moderators and we have very heavy filters. I mean, if your comment ever includes death, dies, dead, killed, left, fired, quit, comes back, returns, your comment's automatically blocked. So, that happens probably even to people who aren't spoiling anything, that just happens to use a trigger word. We really have no choice. And even with all of that, yeah, it's still like a minefield. So, sorry guys, I think we might be at the point where we can't interact as much as we would like to. I want to jump in and talk about the show now, so.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we can just kind of go through the characters because I think that was the strongest part of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to start with the captain, Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart. One season in, what are your thoughts?
I like him a lot. I do. I'm still adjusting to him because I'm so used to the guy I play when I wrestle, my hero, Captain James T. Kirk, and I'm still getting used to the way Picard handles situations.
Stay calm, everyone.
I still want to see him handle situations more on his own, because the first half of the season was kind of like, like he has a headache, or they made him look weak,
Mm-hmm.
as if they were already planning for Jonathan Frakes to take the seat. Yeah, I like Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, coming from TOS and Captain Kirk setting such a high bar, William Shatner setting that high bar, I think it would have been just completely the wrong decision to try to have a Kirk copy or clone as the captain. You have to make the show different. I think the show is at its weakest when it's trying to be the original series in a lot of ways. So to have Picard be this completely different type of more calm, soft-spoken captain, more reserved, and doesn't put doesn't let his emotions ever really, outside of just a couple instances in this first season, get the best of him, I thought was a great choice. And that's why it bothered me that they wrote him so horribly in the beginning to make him look weak and make Riker look like the strong man. So I think they really did start to nail it though towards the end of the season, especially in the last few episodes with Picard. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Obviously, he's in the whole show, I would guess, considering he got his own show eventually. So I would hope so.
I assume he makes it out alive. I hope.
Miss LaForge, engage.
But we already brought him up, so let's talk about him. Jonathan Frakes as Riker as number one. Obviously, this is what I was most excited for. If you don't know, huge Beyond Belief fans here. That's how I know Jonathan Frakes.
Have you ever had the desire to write your initials in wet cement?
And so I was really excited to see him in this. I said immediately after watching like the pilot, like, yeah, I already believe he's Riker. Like, it was my first time seeing him act in a real show, because Beyond Belief, he's just like a Rod Serling type host, you know, playing himself kind of. So in this, he's a character. And luckily, I didn't get stuck on that. I was able to see him as Riker pretty right away.
Yeah, seeing him as a young, beardless guy in Star Trek was definitely jarring at first, because I'm so used to, have you ever, what's the tallest man you've ever seen? So definitely seeing him play an actual person, and he like looks just like Homelander, and it kind of freaks me out, especially with his eyes get all big, and he's like, oh yeah, he's scary looking. But yeah, as he goes on, I loved his early episode with the Ferengi, because he was kind of like the first half hero. Didn't love the episode per se, but just like what they did to him, like, okay, he's like the first officer, he's the guy, he's the go-to. Picard is up on the ship, handling things logistically like a captain should, and the first officer's doing like the action. I'm like, okay, is that going to be the format? That's fine. And then the second half, everything happened to Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah.
In oil, he got shocked.
He kind of fell apart as the season went on.
As it went on, yeah. Not in the forefront as much. I mean,
yeah.
He's definitely involved in every episode, but like not to the level of Worf, but he did kind of like have everything happen to him in a few episodes.
Yeah, I feel like it was such a sharp turn. So there was like Angel 1, for example, basically right in the middle of the season, where he goes down to that planet and is essentially Captain Kirk in that episode, hooks up with a woman on the planet, gives a Kirk speech, and Picard's just sick in bed the whole episode. And literally at the end of the episode, Picard's like, I can't say engage. And Riker's like, engage. And it's like, it's Captain Riker at this point. Literally, it like switched on a dime. And then for the rest of the season, he just kind of was in the background doing nothing. Was that a conscious realization they had? Probably not. I don't think so. But it is very interesting how right at him being pushed the most, he all of a sudden fell back and started, as you said, becoming the almost like Worf's role, where he was just getting beat up a lot.
Yeah.
But he had the nice little, towards the end, conspiracy. He had a good role with his bait and switch there, being infected and conspiracy. So he had some good moments towards the end. But yeah.
Yeah, both the episodes that Remick were in, like those two, the ones that are like connected, like I really liked how he reacted to like being interrogated.
If you want to discuss anything about Captain Picard, you bring him in here and you ask him face to face.
You are required to answer my questions, Mr. Riker, unless you're trying to cover something up.
I'm just wondering what are they gonna do with him? Like, is he always just gonna be right next to Picard every episode? It's like, how are they gonna separate him with them both being? Because Spock's a science officer. Like, he was like the first guy, but he was had his own.
He had a job.
Yeah, he had a job. Yeah, like first officer. He just seems like he's just Picard's buddy.
He's like a vice president.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's like, what do you do? As long as the captain's still alive, what do you do?
Engage.
I think that's one interesting difference between this and TOS, is that instead of a big three, it feels more like Picard and Riker, and then everyone else as an ensemble. So let's get into them. So let's start with Data, Brent Spiner.
I felt immediately like, I like this guy. I don't know what it was. You just like someone. I'm like, I like this guy. And as he went on and showed how strong he is in all of his episodes, like Data lore, and just the stuff of him interacting with everybody and like not knowing about him and discovering more about him. And I'm excited to get into more, hopefully, lore episodes. Not the character lore. Well, maybe, yeah. I don't know. He's weird. He's very charming.
Yeah, it did take me a little bit to grow on him. I really did not like how, like, he's this super smart android, and then he'll go like snoot, just like, I feel like it took him a little bit to figure him out. And then Data lore is just like, all right, yeah, great character. And this season did that so many times with any given character, just like they've been in the background not doing much, or haven't gotten to show their strengths, and then, oh, here's a whole episode about him. Now I really like him. I think almost every member of the crew had one of those episodes this season, which is, I think, one of the strengths of why I think the season is really good. Imagine not watching this first season, even if you don't care for the episodes, missing all of those character-focused things that set them up. I find that very odd.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Data Lore instantly, I'm like, okay, I'm bought into this guy, and just seeing Brett Spiner get to do that portrayal of both Data and Lore, like, oh, now I know he's a really good actor as well,
Mm-hmm.
because you are kind of limited in Data. He can still do a lot, we'll see, but it's like you are limited to this android type role. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Did I miss the point?
No, you didn't, Data. You got it.
And then we have kind of Data's friend. They kind of have the same job, talk a lot, is Geordi LaForge.
Mm-hmm.
I love Geordi. I just wish we had seen more of him, but I loved him.
Yeah, same. We have the one episode where he gets to be captain, and he's another one where we have more scenes of him with people, but not really like, this is Geordi's episode. I just wish we didn't see him take off his glasses until later. We commented about that.
Just trying to forget about it, yeah. He had those back-to-back strong episodes where he was like the B story in both Heart of Glory, the Klingon episode, where we get to see what he sees through his visor.
Mm-hmm.
And then also in the next one, Arsenal Freedom, where he gets to take the captain's chair and really has his own storyline while everyone's down on that planet. And in both of those, he was really strong. So he didn't get like a full episode dedicated to him. He just got like 2 half of ones.
Yeah.
Still kind of worked, but in comparison to TOS, that's something we would have never seen in the original series, a side character getting such strong side stories like that. So really love to see it.
Yeah, I hope we get more episodes. I love like the fascinating idea of the role of a character doing the role of another character and how they handle it. Like seeing Picard being the captain and Geordi being the captain are like two different. Like Geordi's out there sweating, he's freaking out, you know what I mean? And like he's having Worf like, hey, no, you're doing all right.
Worf? Thanks for the advice.
And then we have Worf, as you already brought up, Michael Dorn.
Michael Dorn. God bless that guy for putting on all that makeup for like one good episode. you know what I mean? Like he had fun conversations with everybody at some point. Like talking to Tasha, talking to Wesley Crusher. Like he had good stuff, but it's like he suited up all those times, and it's like sometimes he was just standing there. It's like, God, do something with this guy. He's there, he's there to work. He has all this shit on, and like they finally did do it in his episode.
I don't care what you look like. You are no Klingon. Perhaps not.
Hopefully he does more than get beat up.
Yeah, because literally at the end of this season in Conspiracy, all right, you and me, Klingon, just gets beat up. Yeah, he's like the biggest example of did nothing almost all season, then has an amazing focused episode just on him. Maybe the best side character focused episode in Heart of Glory with the Klingons, where we get to see him interact with a rebel version of the Klingons, more so what we as TOS fans coming into it already know Klingons as. Mm-hmm. So you get to see that contrast. I thought was a great move for his focused episode. And yeah, really excited to see more from him, but you're right. That one episode is really all we got. He had some nice scenes, like you said. I did really like the scene with Wesley in Coming of Age where they're talking in the empty holodeck.
I thought there was nothing that could frighten a Klingon warrior.
Only fools have no fear.
He had great one-liners even before he was focused on.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. I just hope, obviously, that he's not just the beat-up dummy. I know he's going to be. I already know. But hopefully he has more than just that.
Now, Mr. Wolf, the bridge wouldn't be the same without you.
Let's talk about my favorite character. I don't think it's a surprise.
Wesley Crusher.
Wesley Crusher's mom, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
It's hard to be philosophical when faced with suffering.
There was only one decision.
I just hope it was the right one.
I love Beverly Crusher. I love Gates McFadden. She's like I don't know. She took like some qualities of Bones. Like are all doctors like that? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I like to think that she's not a descendant, but like a student of, because it's possible. Because as we saw, Bones is alive. You know what I mean? So I like to, in my own head canon, that they're connected somehow in this universe. But no, her performance in every episode is just stellar. And even if it's no words, it's all told in the face. And yeah, she just elevates every scene she's in. And her relationship with Picard, like a whole different relationship than Bones and Kirk. We have a kind of like this love story going on. Not a love story, but like there's something here that I'm sure will be heavily or maybe just lightly explored for 6 more years.
Yeah, I think she is in a unique position being, a mom character. We haven't seen that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Even when the show was, bad, or even when it was not great, Gates McFadden would make the best of it. She is one of many actors in this show I haven't seen in anything else ever before. So I get to fully buy in as just their Dr. Beverly Crusher. Like, as much as I would be able to love to say Patrick Stewart is Captain Picard, and he is, I know Patrick Stewart. You know what I mean? So it's nice with a lot of these other characters to just fully buy into that character.
That's a good point.
And yeah, like you said, everything you said, she does a great job, especially in the episodes where she has those nonverbal scenes, like Wesley turning down Q's offer to be an adult in hiding Q, and then also the scene in Symbiosis where she realizes the medicine that they're taking is the drug, and it slowly zooms in on her. Just little scenes like that were really great, and I'm glad that they gave her a large role in the season, because I could see her, her being a character. The next character we'll talk about, Troy. Like, I could see her being treated kind of how Troy was a lot, where she's either just not there or in the background doing nothing. And luckily, she wasn't. She got pretty good roles, and there was only one time, and that was the We'll Always Have Paris episode, where I didn't like the Picard love thing, because I felt like they just used it for no reason. Because it's like, oh, a Picard love interest. Well, remember with the Doctor? It's like it didn't really fit there. But everywhere else in the season, I am also interested to see where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
So yeah, Counselor Troy.
Yes, Counselor Troy. One I have, mixed feelings about.
Except phantoms of the past.
It has troubled you.
When used correctly, is fantastic. Tough character to write, because it feels like in most situations, it's like, all right, what are they thinking? What's going on? Because she's right there next to Picard. It should be like that in most situations. So they have to like cleverly write her in these odd situations to where it works. Sometimes they just have to have her not in the episode.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's off doing this. Oh, okay.
Arsenal Freedom, where she's there with Geordi, not only reading Geordi, but also reading those newer members of the crew. That's where I thought she was at her best. It's easy for her to be this mystery character that comes in, what's going on? That's like the instinctual, how you think they should use her every time. But I liked it more when she was dealing with the people on the crew. And we had some comments on that episode that were like, well, yeah, that's actually more of her job. It's like, well, then show it, please. Like, show it more often.
Yeah.
Because I like that much more of reminding Picard or reminding Geordi in that episode, oh, well, keep in mind this. This is why they're acting this way. And she's the counselor. So it makes sense. I hope they do more of that.
I don't want to interfere with your personal life, but unresolved strong emotion can affect judgment.
Even when her character was being written, poorly, I think Marina Sirtis still did a great job. Like, I didn't think her acting was ever poor. It was just like, you put this woman in the show, find out how to use her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they needed to like heavily establish more early on that she's more there for the crew then. Because I think every time they used her, it was always like, all right, Troy, what do you think about whoever they were talking to on the screen?
From his body language as well as his words and tone, I judged that what Karnas said was honest.
One of the most divisive, it seems like, characters, and that's Wesley Crusher, who we've made fun of a lot, but I feel justly gave him credit when it was due, when he had good moments and good episodes. But he wasn't in the last few, and I can't say that I missed him.
I know this may finish me as an acting ensign, but...
Shut up, Wesley!
Yeah, I guess you can say this for any character ever, but when written well, you kind of like him. Like, when he goes to the tryout for Starfleet Academy, like, probably my favorite Wesley episode. Because, he's not boy genius, really. I mean, he is, but he does good things, he has good scenes, and he doesn't win. And it's like, okay, he learned something. But when he's always like, oh, well, I've been studying, rocket physics and all this shit's like, oh, God. It's like, oh, he can't figure it out. And then Wesley's like, oh, I figured it out. Or the PDF file alien, special, this kid's special. It's like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, he's also the only one in the main crew that, look, I get it, he was a kid at the time, but the rest of the actors, I think in almost every case it was like, oh, they're just not being written well. But no, sometimes he just did not act well, Will Wheaton. And like, I get it, he's young, but I can't just let it slide because he's young. I mean, I think of like Justice when he commits the crime of falling into the flowers, and he's like,
I'm with Starfleet. We don't lie.
Just so wooden and flat, you know, and it's like, all right, come on, let's, as you would say, another take, let's go.
Yeah, take two. All right.
So, yeah, he's gonna, you know, I mean, I'm sure he was post-puberty already, but, you know, he's gonna grow up and become older as the show goes on. Maybe his acting will improve. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, he was in Stand By Me, and like he was great in
Mhm.
that. So, a couple more acting classes, kid. You'll get there.
And since I am finished here, sir, may I point out that...
Shut up, Wesley.
And then the only main crew member who did not make it out of the season alive, and that's Tasha Yar.
Required to
Out of my way, woman.
Still think it's a big loss. Only had a few episodes without her at the end, so we haven't really had it sink in. But man, I really like Denise Crosby. I thought did a great job. It sucks that she wanted to leave.
Yeah, I thought her character was very unique, and I loved the decision to have her as a security officer instead of Worf. I'm like, oh, that's unique. And the more we learned about her tragic backstory, just makes it so much more painful that she has a tragic ending, and just the fact that this show went on for 6 more seasons, and it's like so many could have had so much more, but didn't.
Yeah, we had some comments on the episode where she died about how we talked about like, oh man, it's gonna be weird without her. We got some comments like, I've literally never thought about Tasha. Because like a lot of people don't even rewatch the first season, and they're like, I literally do not think about her. I'm like, oh, okay.
No goodbyes. Just good memories. Hailing frequencies closed, sir.
Like, I understand not rewatching the entire first season, but there's some good episodes here.
Look, I mean, when it comes to rewatches, rewatch whatever you want, I guess. I'm just more so like from the first time watching perspective. People saying, just skip it, just start in season 3. It's like, how can I do that? No, I gotta watch it.
Yeah, especially with, I mean, TOS, there were no introductory episodes. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, here's the show, good luck, catch on. But like, Encounter at Farpoint was an introductory episode.
Yeah, it's a pilot, yeah.
Like, it was like, wait, what? They're starting on wait, this is the first day on the Enterprise? It's like, whoa, I imagine if we didn't see that.
I am becoming better acquainted with my new command, this Galaxy-class USS Enterprise.
They picked up Riker, like, to bring him on board.
Yeah, it's like
that is the first episode, yeah. We got to give one last shout out, though. He wasn't in a lot of the show, but we loved his small appearances. Biff Yeager as Lieutenant Argyle.
Could anything he's proposing damage our system?
How could it? It's meaningless.
Apparently the comments said he wrote his own fan letters to try to trick the show into bringing him back on. I don't know if that's true or not. This is what I read.
Respect. I just hope that his return address was his own address and they recognized it. Like, Biff, what are you doing? Hey, you should really book that guy Argyle more. He was great.
He included a headshot of himself in the letter. Yeah, no, but in all seriousness, I did enjoy him while he was there. Just a small random role, and we kind of missed not having that engineer in this season.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing to talk about. Just the decision to just not feature engineering much at all, just to cut out the whole Scotty problem with engineering angle in most episodes. I mean, it's weird how like some things are the same, but it's like, let's not have a main engineering person. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I think, like I said earlier, it's better to do something different, or at least to try it. So we'll see what happens there. But there were a few recurring engineers throughout the season, but Biff Yeager was the only one that left an impression on me. Who is your favorite of the main crew so far?
Now let's go with Data. I love Data. But close second is Picard. Third is Worf, I feel like.
I don't think any of them are bad characters outside of maybe Wesley, who I don't think is like a straight up bad character. I just think he needs the most improvement if you're going to use him.
Mm-hmm. And yours?
Dr. Beverly Crusher, yeah. So
good choice, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think everyone else is everyone else is just really good.
Yeah, no one's down here really. Mm-hmm. Like even Wesley, after his episode, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to not look at him as Gene Jr.
Yeah, Gene, that's true. Yeah, the Gene insert. I forgot about that. So the first season also introduced a few antagonists. The first one we got to bring up is Q.
John Delancey. Am I saying that right? I think it's just a very fantastic performer. I can picture so many plays with him, Shakespeare plays. I picture what was that character from TOS?
Trelane?
Yeah, if that was made back then, or if that episode was made today, it'd be Q. And I just want to see this guy's audition. You know what I mean? It's you know what I mean? We're looking for. I hope he was the only one that even came close. There's something about him where I'm like, oh yeah, like this guy can do anything. Like, and I'm excited to see how he grows. I'm sure he's going to come back. I'm sure he's going to come back. I mean, he was in 2 episodes, and now that we know the show is not afraid to use recurring characters and storylines, makes me super excited. I just wish we saw him one more time.
Yeah.
This show, you know what I mean? I'm excited to see him. I just wish I didn't know the name of his hide and Q. I wish I didn't know the name of his second episode because I would have freaked out if I saw that his wall or whatever.
Yeah, and I think moving forward we're gonna go a little bit more out of our way to not look at the episode titles because I agree with you, and it's going to be a little bit tough, especially for me, to not see them because of the stuff I have to do behind the scenes. But I think if we try a little bit harder, we can, and especially with Q, because we got comments on that episode that like, yeah, almost all of his episodes have Q in it, which
that
it's
sucks.
Like, why, dude? Imagine like watching this on sorry, not cable. Imagine watching this on TV. You know, when it was on TV and you know, you see the episode name, you know, in the TV guide or something, I'd be like, well, actually, you'd probably be excited back then. You'd be like, oh, Q's back. But
yeah, it probably would
different,
make people
different
watch
time.
it, yeah. I mean, what do you think about Q?
Yeah, I agree with you that it was interesting how he showed up like pretty quickly again after the pilot. I didn't expect him to come back that quick, and then to not be in the rest of the first season. And I liked both of his episodes, although I think that in Hide and Q, he got to have a lot more of an active role where it feels like in the pilot Encounter at Farpoint, he just like had that terrible courtroom scene, which is like my least favorite scene of the entire season. And then he just kind of was like standing in the background. I liked his first scene when he came in and had all the different outfits and everything.
Yeah. Encounter at Farpoint was a weird pilot.
Odd choice.
Yeah, it's like they just cut some of Q's later stuff and just focus on those 2. We talked about it.
Yeah, and we might talk about it more, but like, yeah, in his I've also seen people say that there was like, it was a last minute decision to have it be 90 minutes, so they had to like merge 2 episodes, which you can clearly tell.
I will not promise never to appear again.
And then another antagonist introduced by the show that showed up in 2 episodes and then kind of disappeared, the Ferengi. And the last outposts were just, in my opinion, not good at all. Like a joke. And then they show up like really quickly again in the battle where they're controlling Picard's mind with that ball, and there was actually some good performances there.
It is not seemly to question one's own daemon, Riker. I am not prepared to do that.
Yeah, like once we got past like the caricature, I can never say that word, and I choose to say it all the time.
Yeah.
You notice that? Yeah, I know I can't read, and I can't speak. But no, yeah, after their first episode where they're just like a cardboard cutout of like the speed, I'm like, oh, God. But once we got into individual personalities and problems, I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. And then they never brought them back.
Yeah, then they were just gone.
It's like, I kind of wanted to see more after that. I'm surprised because after that first one, I'm like, wrap it up. Wrap it up. Sure, that episode was cool with the Guardian, I believe it was, with like the sword. But yeah, the fact that they thought like, oh yeah, these are our guys. It's like, no, I don't think so.
I like the design. It's like an interesting, different one. But yeah, in the last outpost, it was literally like once the Guardian shows up, the Guardian and Riker are both just like, all right, anyway. It's like totally disregard this threat of the first half of the episode.
It's such an odd episode, and like when they did like the view screen, like it was just a plain white background. It's like, Jesus Christ, it's so bad.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. Obviously, they're going to come back. I mean, they were name dropped several times after being in the show. They'll be back.
Die well, Captain.
Of course, we have to bring up Lore, who was another villain introduced, and like he was like probably the most like pure villain in terms of like an evil version of one of our characters, also played by Brent Spiner. But also, I loved how they didn't kill him off. Because, like, in TOS, so many villains that were so interesting get killed off in that episode. I get it at a different time, I understand. But in this, clearly they had the intention of building this roster of villains, almost like in a comic book kind of way, where you want to build out these B-tier villains that you can bring back for episodes. Don't know when or if he ever comes back, but yeah, I really liked him.
Oh yeah, I love Lore. Seeing, like, Brent Spiner do another shade of basically his character, because they're basically the same person, just a little bit different in their programming.
I say tomato and you say tomato. I say potato and you say potato.
The fact that he's not dead makes me so excited because I'm sure he will come back. And just how much of like just a pure villain he is, to the point where he's even describing his evil plan to Data, like to his face, and when he's passed out, and the fact that Starfleet's just so trusting of everybody.
Yeah, literally just like read everything about this, just like Khan.
Oh, here's all we have. See ya.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Plus, getting to see when he comes back, we all know now. Like, the jig is up. And that first episode he was in, you find out halfway through he's evil, and then the rest of the crew finds out towards the end of the episode outside of Data. Now, when he comes back, everyone knows it's lore. He's not good, so that'll be fun.
I just hope they find like a creative way to reintroduce him. Like the biggest disappointment was during like the episode with like the time jumping thing. If Lore showed up in that, like during the time where like there's a time separation.
Mhm.
Like I feel like that would have been such a cool opportunity to do that. How do you make it make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be
But
tough.
I'm sure there's some smart writers out there that wrote TNG, so
Yeah.
I hope to see something neat like that.
What if he just never returns? And we're both just like, oh, well, it'll be so great.
It'd be so great.
And he just doesn't.
A small payment for your son's misdeeds.
And then the last villains that are introduced as TNG new characters, Quinn and Remick, who we actually get to see as protagonists, Starfleet people, then return as these possessed by parasites, evil characters.
Yeah, I wouldn't say protagonist in the first episode. I'd say like right in the middle and then asshole.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. Once again, just like, okay, recurring, bridge members. Like, okay, that's like Biff Yeager, whatever. I think that's happened before, maybe in TOS. But like to have like speaking characters in prominent roles in 2 different episodes was just mind blowing for me. To add like an extra layer when what they actually end up being at the end, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, Remick ended up, he only has one scene as like a full-on villain, so I can't say he was like an amazing villain. But in that one scene, it was great, his neck bulging and him being like, we come in peace, just shoot him.
My favorite scene, like right away. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in terms of villains that weren't introduced in TNG but show up, we have the Romulans and the Klingons. The Klingons show up finally in Heart of Glory, and then Romulans just at the very end of the season. So not a lot to talk about there, but both of them kind of have a little bit of an evolution. Which one did you like more? Which one are you more excited to see?
I'm excited to see a different form of Klingon. I mean, the Klingons we saw were straight out of Star Trek 3, and they were like rebel Klingons, kind of like the old ways Klingons. So I'm curious onto what like the new Klingons are like the one guy in the view screen. Like I want to see what's happening on that ship. I love that episode, but it's like I also want to see, okay, what are they like now? Like I don't think they're all like Worf, but obviously they've come a long way. It's like, hey, we're not as radical anymore. And Romulans, I have no freaking idea. I mean, it was cool to see them again. I don't think I was ever the biggest fans of them, but like the show kind of tricked me and gaslit me into like being excited because of how many times they frickin' teased them.
Yeah.
So seeing them, I was like, oh shit, and then I started thinking like, wait, do I care?
Yeah, I really liked Romulans and TOS. Just like the idea of a Vulcan offshoot race that's more aggressive, just because that's the way they evolved. I really liked that idea, and every time they showed up in TOS, it was like a legit thing, as to where the Klingons in TOS were like all over the place. Like they looked different every time, they had like different rules and everything every time. And then in this one, like you're right, I think Klingons were perfected in Star Trek 3. So then in this one, to have those rebels be just like that worked really well. But it seems that that's not really representative of the Klingons anymore. So I'm very interested to be like, okay, then what is that like? The diplomatic version of the Klingons. But in terms of a villain for the show, I'm all in on the Romulans. I can't wait to see what they do. Hopefully they don't suck. It was such a blank slate. We've seen nothing, basically. So
yeah, I mean, we're back. So we know they're going to be ridiculous. I wonder if they're going to continue to look like that, because it just added, what, like an extra eyebrow prosthetic?
Yeah, I have no idea. It's just like...
They just look like they had a bigger forehead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we'll never see them again.
Yeah, true. And then just other side characters quickly. Nurse Chapel, Majel Barrett comes back as Luxana Troy, Counselor Troy's mother. Not something I would have expected, and we'll probably talk about Haven a little bit later, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad it wasn't overdone. She didn't come back this season. Like, I was afraid, like, uh-oh. You know what I mean?
She comes back as a different character every episode.
Like, damn it, Gene.
We did it. No, yeah, she was an absolute joy to have on that episode. Having fun out there, nothing crazy, and seeing what like a full Betazoid is like, and Troy's half, right?
Yeah, so she can literally read people's thoughts. And that's what I loved, is that you don't know, is she telling the truth or not? Like when she says things like,
Captain, even Zeno never had such thoughts about me. You may energize.
you don't think she's telling the truth, but you know she can read people's minds, so you never know.
Right, yeah, super fun.
You were a big fan of Lawrence Tierney showing up as Cyrus Redblock.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about him in another video. Yeah, Lawrence Tierney, one of my favorite antagonists from Reservoir Dogs, and this guy was like a known like problem like on set, like he was like ridiculous. So I think he like shoot scared like Wesley Crusher. Uh, forgetting
Will Wheaton?
Yeah, Will Wheaton. Yeah. And like seeing him like as like he played like film noir characters like in the 40s, so seeing him like as that in Star Trek is something I never expected like ever.
Great casting in the season
Great,
for
yeah.
all the guest characters, for
sure.
And then for how much everyone says that every alien character in TNG is just a forehead thing, it was cool to see the Soleil and the Antikins in Lonely Among Us. Not necessarily a great episode, but the lizard creature and the dog-like creature that kind of have this back and forth battle that has nothing to do with the episode, which I really liked because it's just happening.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that until you brought that up. So thanks. Yeah, I forgot. Like when they did do anything prosthetic in this show, it was incredible and creative. Like Mordok is one of my favorite designs ever because of how like unique it is. It's not just, you know, a sticker on someone's head. It's like this fish person has to, hit his vape.
Hitting the vape at all times, yeah.
Gotta hit his vape. It's like, that's so cool.
So yeah, showing the Soleil and Antikin creature so early in the series, it's like kind of set your expectations high. Like, oh, these guest alien creatures are going to be really cool. And then people apparently say that they're not, unfortunately. So we'll see as it goes on. I mean, when this episode came up, we got comments that were like, oh, I totally forgot that these things are in here. These are awesome. So
isn't that great?
Yeah.
I mean, I forgot as well.
Yeah.
And we just watched it.
I want to bring up, because it was a strong guest performance, Admiral Jameson in Too Short a Season, the old man makeup guy who then de-ages.
Yeah.
Soap opera episode that we liked a lot more than most people. And I thought he did a great job, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, going in, we knew, like, okay, he's going to get young.
Yeah,
that's the
instantly.
Thing. Yeah. Definitely very soapboxy, but I still enjoyed his performance, you know?
But when you're having a soapy, ridiculous, dramatic episode like Too Short a Season, it makes sense for him to be over the top. I took both of them, you know, to such a great moment. And then also, a very small role, but Captain Rix, played by Michael Berryman.
Oh, yeah.
That shows up in Conspiracy, is one of the 3 captains that show up there. I don't know if he ever shows up again, but that was a neat little character.
Yeah, neat little, that's a guy. I mean, he has the perfect look to be a Star Trek alien. We were very excited to start, like whether good or bad. I think just starting Star Trek again and starting the show that we started this channel or that we started to watch Star Trek for. It's like, it's finally here. So I'm really curious when we go back and watch those bad episodes, like how it's going to come across.
Yeah. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, well, it's not that season 1's bad TV. It's just, you know, the rest of it's so much better. I think already some of this last half of the season was much better. So I can see where they're coming with that. But yeah.
I already have my I'm not going to retouch again
list.
Yeah. But even then, I feel like each one, just a little bit of good stuff in there.
And for me, it's the characters. Like, even when the episodes weren't good plots or good necessarily writing of the story, the character writing was always great. I mean, you know, episodes like Justice, where at the time I said it was my favorite episode at the time because of one scene between Picard and Data, you know, talking about the philosophy of would you save one person and if it meant a death of a whole planet, you know, and stuff like that. So that was always in there from the start. They just had to catch up with the rest of what they were doing, which I think they started to.
Problem is you can't remember all of those as more, you know,
consuming.
Like, yeah. I'll talk about this really quick while it's here. Like, my biggest fear, especially like for like my job or something, just having to learn all this new stuff. I'm like, okay, my brain is taking in all this new stuff. What good stuff is being pushed out? Because I feel like, I don't know how the brain works, but I'm always afraid that something's leaving it that I might need or that I like while this new stuff is coming in.
You're always going to have to replace information with new information, unfortunately.
It terrifies me.
Yeah. We're not going to do a whole thing comparing this to season 1 of TOS or anything, but I think season 1 of TOS was better. Like, I mean, season 1 of TOS, I think you said it best as to where, because it was more of an anthology, it's like any episode you can jump into, and it was a great lineup of episodes. There were a few bad ones in there, as to where this one just felt like, just kind of like you're along for the ride.
Yeah, this one definitely had its highs, but a lot of them were like, okay, I can pick out my nuggets of good conversation between two characters I like, but not really there for what the plot of the episode is. I'm more there for, and I don't want to watch an entire episode of all this plot I don't care about just for that one, like the scene you talked about with Picard and Data. Like, I don't want to have to sift through all this to get back to it. Maybe that's why people don't revisit much, or they might not even remember these conversations because they just remember, oh God, the Ferengi, and not realizing that there's a little bit of good stuff there. But overall, it was renewed for another season, so it couldn't have been the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I think about that, like, I'm sure in comparison to the later ones, it sucks, but it's like, they didn't cancel it after it. So it must have been okay.
I wanted to say the strength with the characters made it to where it was like, at least there wasn't anything like, even though season 1 of the original series had so many good episodes, there wasn't anything as bad as Miri, but then there's When the Bow Breaks, so I can't even say that.
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
All right, so of course we asked our patrons to get involved and ask us some questions about the first season. So we're going to jump in and try to answer as many as we can, but there's plenty more over on our Patreon you can go check out.
This one's from a surprisingly moist fart. This is the first one I saw, and I like it because I think it's one of our favorite aspects of TNG. If you had access to a holodeck, what would you do? I'll go to my local dive bar.
You'd be very similar to Riker.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, you can go anywhere, and if it's realistic and it has the information, like
real life information.
Yeah, like actual, like, I don't know. I mean, I've always wanted to go to Ireland, to go to like an Irish pub or something.
Yeah, see, I would like to think
relive an experience with an ex-girlfriend where I messed up and do it right this time. I don't know.
And then when you leave, it's like, it's gone.
Even though when I leave, it doesn't change it.
Yeah, I would like to think, oh, yeah, I could use to, like, enrich my knowledge of places I haven't traveled to and history and stuff. I wouldn't do any of that. I'd end up just doing silly, fun stuff. I'd do fucking laser tag or something. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Plus, I can learn anything I want right now, and I don't.
Yeah, will I? No.
Like, anything I want to know is right here, and I don't. Yeah, just figure out some fun outdoor activity that I couldn't regularly do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, cue me up to Disney World. But then you come in and I'm just standing in a long queue line. Like, I can do anything I want. I'm just standing in the line.
Oh, yeah, you're...
Why wouldn't you load it up with no lines? Not realistic. All right, this one's from Glenn Johnson Barnes. Simple question, but which character do you expect/hope for the most growth going forward? Not necessarily your favorite character.
Yeah, Riker for the most growth and, like, stuff for him to do besides just next to Picard. I guess a little bit of Picard as well to see how he handles things as a captain. I don't know if that's growth, but just more situations where I want to see his take instead of, like, what Kirk would do. I want to see what he would do. But yeah, Riker.
See, I almost wanted to go with Wesley because it's like, I think his character needs the most work, so I would hope he has the most growth. But I'm actually going to go with Worf. I really want to see more growth, and I really don't want him to just be the guy who's supposed to be strong but gets beat up. So we'll see, but I don't have high hopes necessarily, but I would love to see a Klingon, protagonist, main crew member really get fleshed out. So that would be my biggest hope.
All right, this one's from Dion James Pittman. Which additions to world building or the lore have you liked most?
My favorite thing is probably the evolution of the Klingons' role within Starfleet and the Federation and this peace treaty that they apparently have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm most interested in seeing explored, is how exactly does that all work? What do we've already seen that these rebels didn't like it, but like, what do most Klingons think?
Mm-hmm.
How many rebels are there? And then the ones that are peaceful, what are their roles in the show and in the world? So that was probably my favorite part of it. This one is from Monty. He says, special effects aside, what are your thoughts on the new Enterprise, comparing the Enterprise from TOS to the Enterprise D? I really like it in the sense that I love the idea of it splitting apart. I've seen actually people argue that in our comments. Some think that's dumb, but I actually like that. I think it's a really neat idea because, especially since they have so many civilians on the Enterprise D, that anytime they get into big trouble, they can be like, all right, get the hell out of here. We'll go on the battle bridge and take care of this. But I hope they don't just forget about that and then like we're gonna end up being like, why aren't they separating in this situation? But
Yeah.
as of now, I really like that.
Yeah, I was worried they did until they actually did split it up that one episode. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. And Encounter at Farpoint, they made like a note to introduce all these little quirks and stuff they could do when Riker was on. Oh, I can guide you exactly where you need to go because you can talk to the computer anywhere. I like the new bridge. I love the new layout. Still the two chairs in the front, but you got Picard in the back, two chairs, and like there's this, the round thing where like people can stand like on the bridge up there. All that's fun. The little like the clear elevators that come down. All that's fun. Did I answer the question?
Yeah. I think so.
I got one from Ryan. What was the most unexpected thing about TNG Season 1? And I'm glad I'm answering this one because continuity. That was the most surprising and most like shocking. Like, wait, what? Continuity and recurring characters or like continuing storylines just was, which in modern TV is like, it's a regular thing.
It'd be shocking if they didn't have that.
But I have such Star Trek brain where I'm like just seeing a character I know, it's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. For me, the most unexpected for me was how quickly I fell in love with all of the characters. Like, I went into it like pretty nervous actually. I'm like, how are any of these characters going to stack up to this crew I've already fallen in love with? And then instantly, I'm like, oh wow, most of these characters I really like. And then by the end of the season, I liked basically all of them. So, and it was like really torn apart when one of them died. So that was most definitely unexpected for me. And knowing that I get to spend 6 more seasons and then also however many movies there are with, I would guess at least most of these characters, I'm really excited for.